Hoover Institute's senior fellow, Victor Davis Hanson. Can you explain how someone would come up with that line that Trump created this Biden migrant terrorist?
Not really, but I think you have to start with the premise that whatever damage these 12 million people who are in violation of immigration law and here illegally do to their fellow Americans pales in comparison with the damage they want to do to Donald Trump. They don't care about the collateral damage or the direct damage from illegal immigration. They only want to see it in a way that can hurt Donald Trump because they're fixated on him. But Jesse, I don't think we understand that the border, securing the border was not the big, that wasn't the end of everything. That was just the end of the beginning. We've got 12 million people that came in under Biden alone, and 8 to 10 to 15 that were here anyway. You do the math, that's 3 million a year that you would have to deport just to get the Biden illegals gone, and that works out to about 250,000 a month. On a good day, everybody's frenzied and angry because ICE deports 800 people. They'd have to do 8,000, 10 times more if they were going to keep up that rate for the 4 years of the Trump tenure to deport the people that came under Biden alone. This is an existential problem. It's like the $37 trillion debt. There's no answers to it. What Biden did in those 4 years will go down in presidential history as one of the most egregious transgressions against the American people. And every day we're going to learn about an innocent person killed, somebody from the Middle East terrorizing a Jewish person. It's going to keep going. And these are like landmines because there was no audit, there was no background checks, there was no nothing. And we've got 12 million people, we have no idea. It's a monumental logistical task, and they're doing heroic work. But if they were to finish the task of the Biden years alone, they'd have to step up by a magnitude of 10. And it's staggering. And the left is angry because every time you find an illegal alien, it's a bad example of what Biden did. There's no good, there's no upside to it. It's like
right, yeah, they're like humiliated every time one of these guys torches a Jewish person or slaughters a jogger. It's just a reminder of the guy that they supported victimize the country over and over and over again. Tom Homan's having nightmares. I mean, he just can't sleep because he knows, like you said, there's just hand grenades waiting to go off all over the country. So how about this guy, this Democrat? He doesn't think it's appropriate for ICE agents to wear masks. Isn't that to just disguise themselves because they're dealing with cartels?
I can tell you I live in a very rough neighborhood, and we've had people come in and arrest in my neighborhood gang members, and they all had to wear masks because anybody who knows anything about the Mexican gangs, to take just one example, knows that they have contacts in the United States and outside the United States, in prison and out, and they can identify somebody and call on a cell phone, and that person's family will be in danger. And it's a very strange logic that we have radical Palestinian, pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas, pro-terrorist students that the universities are letting to wear masks, and yet they object to people who are trying to save their families and enforcing the law at the same time.
Yeah.
It's a nihilistic, I've never seen anything like it. It's this, the hatred of Trump is irrational, and the people who are expressing it are nihilistic. They really are. There's nothing we do.
Maybe the ICE agents should just tell the congressman they have COVID and they want to stop the spread. Then they'll be allowed to let their masks stay on. VDH, always a pleasure. Great to see you, as always. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.